Hi everyone, it's Penny Black and Jill Foster here with another PB&J card class. And in today's video, we are continuing with our New Year, New Sketches series of 12 videos. And today's video features a sketch using Penny Black's whirl die. So we are going to take the whirl die out for a whirl. So here is a look at the sketch. It is so very simple and yet so very useful. It's just that whirl die on a card panel, and then you put whatever you want on top and add a sentiment. And the card will look complete. I just love how it all comes together in the end. So I like to prep my sketches in advance. So those basic elements, this one was super easy to prep. I've got the whirl die cut out. I'm working on a 5x7 card panel. You could do this on a standard size card too. Just shrink down and use a smaller, one of the smaller whirl dies. And just a note before we continue, I do have an ebook with all of these sketches from this series and 36 card ideas. And if you'd like to show your support, I'll put a link for that down in the YouTube description box below. So I went ahead, I've prepped my sketch envelope, and then I picked out what stamps do I want to use to sort of fill that sketch to put in that frame. And you could pick anything that you want. You could pick Christmas stamps, birthday stamps, flowers, critters. I mean, anything will fit in there. And that whirl die is versatile enough to go with cute to elegant. I went ahead and picked those out, and then I stamped everything. So this stamp is from our Enchantingly set, and I have stamped it using Toffee Crunch ink onto Canson 140-pound watercolor paper. I use a PITT artist pen to just color in those stamens so they would show a little bit more, and I'm going to paint this using Distress Ink Reinkers used as watercolors. So if you've been watching this video series, you have seen me using this medium for my cards, but please know, use whatever medium that you love. These sketches will work with markers, these stamps will work with markers or colored pencils, whatever you like, reach for that. And this is what I'm enjoying at the time, so that is what I have reached for. So I'm going to begin by painting in the flower. When I pick up the reinker from the palette, that is when it is most concentrated. So I'm going to put that where I want the color to be darkest. Then I just rinse off my brush and pat it pretty dry on the paper towel and go back and blend. Now on this flower, I put down sort of a first base layer of scattered straw, Distress Ink Reinker, and then I went back into those while it was still wet with the darker color of Rusty Hinge where I wanted it to be darker, and use that same blending process. And that just creates a blend of those two colors and also with some shading to it. And I really like those two colors together. As with all of my other videos, everything that I'm using today will be listed for you down in the YouTube description box below. So all of the Penny Black stamps and dies and all of that is listed and linked for you. And then all the other supplies, ink pads, paper, the colors that I'm using to paint with, the paintbrush, all of that is in another section, just says other supplies. So if you want to check out any of that, it is listed for your convenience down below. Now when I work on petals that are right next to each other, I do either dry it or jump around the image a little bit so that they don't start blending together. So you can see there I'm just drying that before I move on to another petal. And this flower is so great to color. I think it's really elegant, but it colors very quickly. So if you watched the previous video, I used the same stamp set for the roses on that edger die. And it was a whole bunch of roses. This is included in that same set, and it's just a single with a little bud there. And so you have a lot of options with this, and this one colors up really quickly and is really, really pretty. And I think, again, you can use it for any type of occasion. I'm going in now to get the leaves, so just putting that darker color and then blending it. And if you want more detail about my painting process, I will link to a video with that down below where I go much slower and explain things in a lot more detail. Putting in that darker color where I want it to be darkest, rinsing off the brush, patting it dry, and going back to blend. Can always go back in and add more color at that point, or leave it as it is, or even dry it and layer more color on top. But I kept things pretty simple here. And then finally, I will just paint over that stem. Now we have cutout dies for all of these stamps, which gives you even more options for your card designs and to make them work with your sketches. So I will go ahead and cut that out. Now I went ahead for each one of the cards I was making, picked a sort of what I would call a supporting die cut. This would be a die that does not have any stamping with it, but would go with the design. So for the flower, I picked this leaf die. This is called Dignified, and I'm going to paint it so it's in the same medium as my flowers, but you could also cut this. I think it'd be really pretty cut from vellum, or even colored cardstock would be great for that. And this sketch has a lot of open space, sort of breathing room, where you can pull in some busier design, some more layering without it looking sort of tacky or like too much. So you can see there how those two go together. I glued two of the whirl die cut frames together just for extra dimension. And I'm just playing around with placement. I like the whirl frame to be up just a little bit higher on the card than it is on the bottom. And I want to add some contrast in the background. You wouldn't have to do this step, but what I've done is I've just pressed that Toffee Crunch ink pad onto my acrylic block. I'm going to paint just water here on this background because I just want a touch of that color in a sort of painted look. And now I'll pick up the ink that's on that palette and drop it into that wet area. So it's going to be really diluted and it's going to stay where I put the water. And so that kind of helps me know with the frame on there I could put the water down and then go back and do the color without the frame there so it didn't get onto the frame. I can just check, and I just like that subtlety that that adds inside of that frame, but again, you really wouldn't have to do that. And I decided then to add a little bit up at the top too. Same thing, I put a little water down and then put that in there. And honestly, if you do this and you don't like it, just put that paper in your scraps and start over. You haven't invested a lot of time in it. So I'm going to glue down this frame. And then I'm just holding those elements in place while I stamp my sentiment. And I'm stamping this using Memento ink in the color of gray flannel. So just kind of soft. I wanted it to be a soft sentiment on there. And it is on the Canson 140-pound cold press watercolor paper, so there is some texture to that. So that is why I do it in a stamp positioning tool where I can get a couple of impressions so that it stamps well. Now I trimmed off this leaf from that die, and I'm going to add it up here at the top just to add kind of a flow to that entire design. And it's really fun to kind of combine that with some other dies. All I did was add a little twine and some pearls, and the card was complete. And let's see the other cards that I've made using the same sketch. For this one, you can see I've positioned my items or my stamped elements differently, but it still totally works. And my supporting die was the cloudy die set up there. And then here I added the supporting die of heart balloons and led the little couple sitting along the edge of that whirl die. So lots of different ways and styles you can do with this very simple sketch. I thank you so much for watching today, and if you enjoyed today's video, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. I thank you so much all of you for being here and for the kind words that you leave. It's just such a nice community of card makers we have, and I appreciate you. You can continue to connect with Penny Black on Facebook, Pinterest, Twitter, as well as Instagram, our website, and blog, and all of those will be linked for you down in the description box. Happy stamping, and thanks for watching.